In the name of God, I am Kaman Kashi. I have dedicated the seventh part to getting familiar with the Proforma invoice, and packing list, and we will start that together now. What is a Proforma or Proforma invoice? A Proforma or Proforma invoice is a document that is issued by the seller after correspondence and negotiations between the buyer and seller are completed and the terms of the transaction are finalized. When the buyer and seller have a series of negotiations about the purchase and sale of goods and reach some final agreements, the seller issues a document called a proforma or proforma invoice, in which the terms of the transaction are stated and it contains certain information. What information does it contain? The proforma number and date of issuance, the full name and address of the seller, the full name and address of the buyer, complete specifications of the goods, which include a detailed qualitative and quantitative description of the goods, the quantity and weight, both net and gross, the volume, the dimensions, the customs classification number of the goods, which is the HS code, the proforma amount, the amount they have agreed upon, the type of currency in which the goods will be exchanged, a breakdown of the net price of the goods, the packaging cost, and the shipping cost. All of these details must be specified separately in the document. The shipping term they have agreed upon, or in other words, the Incoterm they have settled on, as well as the origin and final destination of the goods, which should specify the country, city, and even the port. The delivery time of the goods and also the number of deliveries should be agreed upon between them. The mode of transportation for the goods, whether by sea, land, rail, air, or any other means, must be determined, as well as arrangements regarding the transfer of goods from one mode of transport to another. For example, whether transshipment is allowed or not, whether cross-stuffing should take place or not, and any other agreements they make between themselves. The method of payment for the goods, whether it will be by remittance, bill of exchange, or letter of credit, should also be decided. Issues related to inspection, which we explained in the previous part, such as whether the goods need to be inspected and whether an inspection certificate should be issued or not, must also be addressed. The country of origin of the goods must be specified. The validity period of this proforma must definitely be stated in it so that all operations related to the shipment of goods are carried out before that date. Issues such as training or after-sales services, agreements on financial guarantees like the period for the performance bond and specifying the related amount, the documents requested by the buyer, and necessary certificates such as packaging and certificate of origin and things like that, as well as agreements regarding the cost of unloading the goods. All of these must be detailed and itemized in the proforma or pre-invoice, which should be issued by the seller and sent to the buyer. In this section, we will see what uses this proforma or pre-invoice actually has. The proforma invoice is the basis for the buyer's decision-making. That is, when the seller sends it, the buyer reviews it and based on that decides whether or not they actually want to purchase the goods. The proforma invoice is used in the stages of obtaining order registration permits, opening letters of credit, and clearing goods. The buyer can use the proforma invoice to obtain the necessary permits as well as to receive foreign currency. That is, if they want to go and actually obtain a series of permits from various organizations, they definitely need this proforma invoice. Or if they want to get foreign currency for their own shipping, they can use this proforma invoice to proceed with their work. A proforma invoice can also be used for signing export contracts in tenders. So this proforma invoice is also useful in tenders and can be used there as well. What is an invoice or commercial invoice? The commercial invoice, which is also called the purchase invoice, is one of the documents required by the buyer to present to customs. Keep in mind that the proforma invoice itself is not considered a standard shipping document. I only included the definition of the proforma invoice here because I wanted to first explain it to you so that by referring to it I could then define the invoice for you. But the proforma invoice is not among the standard shipping documents. After the proforma invoice is approved by the buyer, the seller issues the invoice, which is a commercial document and contains information exactly matching the proforma invoice in the name of the buyer. This document specifies the actual value of the goods that are to be imported and the customs duties that are to be paid based on it. And it actually shows that the payment for the goods has been made by the buyer to the seller. The seller or exporter must issue the invoice in the name of the buyer, but sometimes it may be issued in the name of the buyer's commercial representative or the importer, so the invoice is issued after the pro forma invoice and after the pro forma invoice is approved by the buyer. Now, what information is included in the invoice? The date of the invoice, the full name and address of the buyer and seller, the order or contract number, the quantity and full description of the goods, the unit price of the goods, and the total price of the goods. All of these must be stated in full. Any additional costs that have been agreed upon between the buyer and seller must be specified here. The total value of the goods, the net and gross weight of the goods, the number of packages, marks and shipping numbers, delivery and payment terms, such as whether it's prepaid or postpaid, their Incoterms agreement, and shipping details. All of these must be itemized and included in the invoice. The next document we want to review together here is the packing list. The packing list is another important document in international transportation, which actually shows the details of the goods that have been shipped. It includes the quantity, net weight, gross weight, dimensions of the packages, dimensions of the goods, type of packaging, and the exact contents of each package. Other information such as the details of the seller and buyer, place of loading, place of unloading, date and invoice number, and other matters are also included, but the price of the goods is not listed in the packing list. The packing list is used for customs procedures for export and import at both the origin and destination customs, and it can also be useful for the shipping company, especially if the responsibility for loading and unloading the goods lies with the shipping company. The packing list is one of the documents that is extremely important and significant for customs officers for the accurate assessment of goods. Thank you, dear friends. We have reached the end of Section 7, Part D, and we have completed the discussion of standard shipping documents in this part. I hope this training has been useful for you and that you have benefited from it. Wishing you success and prosperity.